Okay, good morning. Welcome to
Math number 120.
Anybody know anything exciting about the number 120?
It's 12 times 10.
It's 12 times 10. That's good. You know anything else?
It's not a square. It's almost it's almost 11 squared.
It's almost 11 squared. Okay. It's 5 factorial. We're going to talk about 3 things today. The area of a circle, the volume of a sphere, and then we're going to circle back to the area of a circle.
Cool.
Okay?
Right.
It's going to be a fun day, and it's sort of inspired by a paper I saw posted the other day that showed how to get the volume of any circle type shape in any dimension, like a 4-dimensional sphere.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was really neat. Okay, so we have to talk, in order to talk about the area of a circle, we just need to talk about a couple of different things. So here's the radius, and then here's the circumference that goes all the way around. And then there's a special number associated with the circle. What's that number?
Pi.
Pi. And how is pi defined?
It's the ratio of the circumference over the diameter.
Do you know that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so pi is the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, or another way to say it is pi times the diameter, which I'll just call d, is the circumference all the way around.
Oh, cool.
Okay, or the diameter is twice the radius. So
it's
2 times pi times the radius is the circumference.
cool.
Okay, so if the radius of the circumference, if the radius of the circle is 1, what is the circumference of the circle? If the radius of the circle is 1, how far is it all the way around the circle?
Well, then it's 2 pi times the radius.
Yeah, and if the radius is 1, what is that? What is 2 pi times the radius equal?
It's just 2 pi.
2 pi, very good. So if we have a circle whose radius is 1, the circumference
Is 2 pi.
is 2 pi. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how you figure out what the area of the circle is, because we don't know how to find areas of circles. What have we talked about that we know how to find?
I think we know squares and rectangles.
Squares and rectangles, and you know one other shape,
Triangles.
triangles. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make this into a shape that we know how to calculate the area of, okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to chop it into quarters.
That makes sort of like triangle shapes.
Those are sort of like triangle shapes, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart. Now remember, I'm always going to use something that has a radius of 1. Okay?
Alright.
Actually, you know what? Forget it. Now, radius of 1.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay? So now I'm going to rearrange these shapes. And I'm going to make a shape that goes like this. Circle, circle. Right next to it, a shape that goes like this, and then that part of the circle. That's supposed to be, say, like this one and then this one.
Yeah.
And then underneath them,
It kind of looks like a rectangle. It's
3,
a little
4.
wavy.
it looks more like a rectangle than the circle does, right?
Yeah.
But its problem is it's not quite straight up and down, and it's a little wavy on the top
Yeah.
and the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Now, if the original radius of my circle was 1, and the circumference we said was 2 pi around, how far is it when I go on this bump plus this bump?
That's just pi.
What do you think?
I think it's not the whole diameter. It's not the whole circumference. It's only half of the circumference. So I think it's going to be pi.
Pi, very good. It's pi. It's halfway around the circle. Okay. Now I don't know how to calculate the radius of this or the area of this shape, but it does start to look a little bit more like a rectangle. Do we have any ideas what we could do for our next step?
We could chop everything into quarters again.
Okay, let's chop it up again. So now we have eighths. Okay.
Then now we can rearrange it.
Now we can rearrange it again. Yink, 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 yink. Yink, 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 yink. What do you think now?
I think it's
Straight. starting to look even more like a rectangle.
Okay, and then can you answer this question for me? How far is it when I go on these bumps?
It's gonna be the same. It's gonna be half the circumference, so it's
Half
gonna
the-
be pi again.
It's going to be pi again. And by the way, how far is one of these bits here?
That's the radius.
That's the radius, r, and we're saying r is 1.
Yeah.
So I guess I better just say 1.
Well,
Okay. Now, is this starting to look kind of like a rectangle?
yeah,
How long is the rectangle?
it's pi long.
How high is the rectangle?
It looks like it's 1.
1. So if this was a rectangle, what would its area be?
It's pi.
Pi. Length times width.
Cool.
Okay. Now, so what do you think we're going to do next?
Well, we could
Chop it up again.
Chop it up again. And we're going to start getting, we're just going to keep chopping and chopping and chopping, and eventually we're going to get something that looks
almost like a rectangle.
almost like a rectangle.
When you do it for infinity, it'll actually be a rectangle.
And it'll be pi long and 1 high.
And its area will be 1.
Area will be pi.
Oh yeah.
And if I do it for a radius r instead, the circumference would be 2 pi times r. So half the radius would be pi times r, or sorry, half the circumference, would be pi times r. Yes?
Yeah.
The height of our little rectangle would be r.
Cool.
And what is the area of this rectangle?
It's pi times r squared.
Pi times r squared, which means that the area of the circle is?
It's 2 pi. No. You cut.
Remember, I took my wedges of the circle and I rearranged them like this. So these wedges together equal what? The area of these wedges together is the same as?
It's gonna be the same as pi.
Well, what shape do these wedges reassemble to make?
They reassemble to make that circle.
So the area of this is the same as what?
It's the same as the area of the circle.
So if the area of this rectangle that I get all the way at the end is pi r squared, what's the area of the circle?
Pi r squared.
Pi r squared. How cool is that?
Cool, very.
So by this simple idea of chopping up the circle into these really thin little slices and getting this rectangle, which we know how to find the area of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We figure out that the area of a circle is
Pi r squared.
pi times the radius squared. So next video we're going to study the volume of a sphere. Okay?
Awesome.
We'll do that later today though. Okay, good job guys. Good job.